The mining station on Europa was quiet that morning. Jake Morrison was drinking his coffee and looking out the window at the frozen moon surface below. He had been working here for 3 years now, managing the ice mining operations. It was a simple job most days. The machines dug up ice, processed it into clean water, and sent it back to Earth. Nothing exciting ever happened here. That changed when the alarm went off. A ship was coming toward the station. Jake put down his coffee and walked quickly to the control room. His assistant, Kate, was already there, staring at the screen. The ship was big and silver, with a design Jake had seen in training videos. It was a Vexari ship. The Vexari were aliens that humans had met 12 years ago. They were tall, reptile-like creatures who traveled around space trading things. Most humans had never actually seen one in person. Jake was one of those humans. The ship came closer and sent a message. Kate played it on the speakers. A strange clicking voice came through. Then the computer translated it into English. The voice said they needed help. Their ship was damaged and they needed water. Jake thought about it. Europa Station had plenty of water. That was their whole job, making water from ice. He told Kate to let the ship land in the docking bay. He also called Martinez, the security chief, and told him to bring some guards, just to be safe. An hour later, Jake was standing in the docking bay watching the alien ship land. The doors opened and 3 Vexari walked out. They were even taller than Jake expected, maybe 8 feet high. Their skin was covered in green scales that shined under the lights. Their eyes were gold and shaped like a cat's eyes. They moved smoothly like dancers. The one in front had symbols glowing on a belt around its chest. The computer said those symbols meant he was a commander. The alien stopped a few feet away from Jake and spoke. The translator turned his words into English. His name was Vex Kohler. He said their ship hit some asteroids and their water systems were broken. They needed water to continue their journey. Jake relaxed a little. This seemed like a normal problem that he could help with. Jake introduced himself and said they could provide the water. Kate whispered that they had extra water right now, so it would not be a problem. Jake told the commander they would be happy to help. Then Vex Kohler said something else. One of his crew members was sick. Her name was Zixthera, and she was their science officer. She needed special water treatment that their broken systems could not give her. Could she stay at the station while they fixed their ship? Jake looked at Kate. They had never had an alien stay at the station before. It was a big decision, but if they said no, it would look bad for Earth. It might even cause problems between humans and Vexari. Jake made up his mind. He said yes. The Vexari commander made a movement with his hands that the computer said meant thank you. He said humans were following the old space traveler rules by helping others in need. He said the Vexari would remember this kindness. 2 hours later, they brought Zixthara into the station. She was smaller than the others, about 7 feet tall. Her scales were darker and had little silver spots on them. She looked tired and moved slowly, but her eyes were bright and curious. She looked around at everything with interest. Dr. Linda Chen was waiting in the medical room. She was the station's doctor and had studied alien biology. She smiled at Zixthera and told her to sit down. She said she would run some tests and then start the treatment. Jake watched as the doctor worked. Zixthera seemed calm and cooperative. The doctor hooked up some monitors and started checking the alien's vital signs. Everything seemed normal, or at least normal for a Vexari. As Jake left the medical room, he felt something was strange about all this. The story made sense. The Vexari needed help and he was providing it. But something about the way Commander Vex Kohler acted made Jake wonder. The commander seemed too careful with his words, like he was hiding something. Kate walked with him back to the control room. She asked if he believed the Vexari story. Jake thought about it. He said he believed they needed help. But maybe there was more to it than just broken equipment. Jake told Kate to keep the security team alert. But he also said everyone should be friendly. The last thing they needed was to do something that would hurt the relationship between humans and Vexari. Kate nodded and said she understood. That night, Jake went back to his room. Through his window, he could see Jupiter. The giant planet filled the sky with its orange and brown stripes. Its storms swirled and moved like they had for millions of years. Somewhere up there in orbit, the Vexari ship was waiting. Jake could not sleep well. He kept thinking about the Vexari. Why did they really come here? Europa Station was not on any major space routes. There were other stations closer to where they said they had been traveling. Why come all the way here just for water? He got up and made himself some tea. As he drank it, he looked at reports on his computer. Everything at the station was running normally. The ice processors were working fine. The water tanks were full. The crew was healthy and doing their jobs. Down in the medical room, Dr. Chen was also awake. She was looking at the test results from Zixthera. The Vexari's body chemistry was interesting. The doctor had studied it in school, but seeing it in person was different. She made notes about everything she saw. Zixthera was sleeping on the medical bed. The doctor had given her some water to drink earlier. It was just regular water from Europa's ice processors, clean and pure. Exactly the same water that the crew drank every day. What nobody knew yet was that this simple act of giving water to an alien would change everything. The water from Earth was special in a way that humans did not understand. It had properties that would soon become very important. Properties that would make every species in the galaxy want it. But for now, Jake finished his tea and went back to bed. Dr. Chen saved her notes and went to her quarters. Zixthara slept peacefully in the medical room. The Vexari ship waited in orbit, and Jupiter continued its eternal rotation in the black sky. Tomorrow would bring surprises that none of them expected. The simple act of kindness of giving water to someone in need was about to reveal a truth that would shake the entire galaxy. Earth's water was not just water. It was something much, much more. But that discovery would have to wait for morning. For now, Europa Station was quiet. The machines hummed softly. The crew slept. And in the medical room, Zixthera's body was already beginning to change in ways that would soon become impossible to ignore. 3 days passed since Zixthera arrived at the station. Dr. Chen had been treating her with regular water and monitoring her health. On the 4th morning, the doctor called Jake to her office. Her face looked worried and excited at the same time. Jake walked into the doctor's office and saw screens everywhere showing graphs and numbers. Dr. Chen pointed at one of the screens. She said she needed to show him something important. Something that would change everything. The doctor explained what she found. When she gave Zixthera water from Europa Station, strange things started happening. The Vexari's body started healing faster. Old injuries that showed up in the first scans were getting better. Her cells were regenerating 30% faster than normal. Jake did not understand at first. He asked what was special about their water. It was just frozen ice from Europa that they melted and cleaned, the same process they had been using for years. Dr. Chen shook her head. She said Earth water was different from any other water in space. Earth water had been part of living things for billions of years. It had been inside plants, animals, and people. It had been rain, rivers, and oceans. All of that time being part of life had changed it somehow. It had a special signature that other water did not have. The water from Europa originally came from Earth, millions of years ago, so it still had that special property. When Vexari drank it, their bodies reacted in amazing ways. It was not just helping them survive. It was making them better, stronger, healthier. Jake felt cold suddenly. He asked if the doctor thought the Vexari knew about this before they came. Dr. Chen said she was sure of it. The whole story about damaged equipment was probably just an excuse. They came here to test if the rumors were true. And now they knew. Before Jake could say anything else, his communicator beeped. It was Kate. Her voice sounded urgent. She said Commander Vex Kohler was back, and he brought more ships with him. Many more ships, and Jake ran to the observation deck. When he got there, he could not believe what he saw. 7 Vexari ships were now in orbit around Europa. They were not warships, but having so many ships here was definitely a message, a show of power. Kate was already in the docking bay when the commander arrived. This time, Vex Kohler was different. He did not look humble anymore. He walked with confidence like someone who knew he had something valuable. He smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The commander thanked Jake for taking care of Zixthera. He said her recovery was remarkable. Truly remarkable. The way he said it made it clear that he knew exactly why she recovered so well. Jake kept his voice calm. He said he was not expecting more ships. The commander said they were just being careful. Space could be dangerous. It was good to have friends nearby. Then he got to the real reason for his visit. Vex Kohler said the Vexari wanted to make a business deal. They wanted to buy water from Europa Station regularly. They would pay very well. Whatever price Jake wanted. They wanted to start with 10,000 liters as a test. Jake felt Kate get tense beside him. He knew this was a trap. If he agreed, he would be setting a bad example. Other aliens would expect the same treatment. If he refused, he might make the Vexari angry. Neither choice was good. Jake took a deep breath. He said he appreciated the offer, but he could not accept it. Water was precious, even on Europa. Any big trades had to be approved by Earth. He was just the station manager. He did not have the authority to make such deals. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The only sound was the hum of the station's machines. Vex Kohler stared at Jake with his golden cat eyes. Jake stared back, trying not to show he was nervous. Then something unexpected happened. Vex Kohler made a gesture with his hands. The computer said it meant respect. The commander said Jake was wise to be careful. Wiser than he probably knew. The commander said he would tell his leaders what Jake said. His ships would finish their repairs and leave within a day. But then he said something that made Jake's blood run cold. He gave Jake advice. He said to protect the water. Protect it very carefully. There were others in the galaxy who would not be as polite as the Vexari. With those words, the Vexari group left. Jake watched them walk back to their ship. His mind was racing. Was that a threat? Or was the commander actually trying to warn him? What did he mean by others who would not be polite? Kate spoke first. She said they needed to contact Earth immediately. This was bigger than just Europa Station. This was something that could affect all of humanity. Jake agreed completely. Jake told Kate to open a priority communication channel to Earth Defense Command. He also told her to increase security, put more guards on duty, check all the entrances. If the commander was warning them about danger, they needed to take it seriously. As the Vexari ship started preparing to leave, Jake went back to Dr. Chen's lab. She was still looking at data from Zixthera's treatment. She looked up when Jake entered. Jake asked an important question. If Earth water did this to Vexari, what about other alien species? Could it help them too? The doctor said she had been thinking about the same thing. She had run computer simulations using data about other known aliens. The results were clear. Earth water would probably have good effects on almost every carbon-based alien species they knew about. Not as strong as with the Vexari, but still significant. Every species would want this water. Jake said what they were both thinking. They were sitting on the most valuable thing in the entire galaxy, and now thanks to the Vexari, everyone would know about it soon. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. She looked scared. She said this could be very bad for humanity. If every species wanted Earth's water, what would they do to get it? Would they try to take it by force? Would there be wars over water? Jake did not have answers to those questions. All he could do was report what they found to Earth and hope the leaders there would know what to do. He left the lab and went to the communications room. The message to Earth took an hour to prepare. Jake explained everything. The Vexari visit, Zixthera's amazing recovery, the commander's offer, and his warning. He attached all of Dr. Chen's data and test results. Then he sent it with the highest priority code. After sending the message, Jake went to his quarters. He was exhausted but could not sleep. He kept thinking about what the commander said. Others who would not be polite. What did that mean? Who were these others? Outside his window, the Vexari ships were starting to move. One by one, they left orbit and headed away from Europa. Soon they were gone, leaving only the stars and Jupiter's massive form in the sky. Jake finally fell asleep just before dawn. He dreamed about water. Oceans of it stretching forever, and in his dream, everyone in the galaxy was trying to take it. He woke up sweating, his heart pounding. It was just a dream. But as Jake got dressed and went to start his day, he had a feeling that his dream might soon become reality. The galaxy now knew that Earth had something special, something valuable, something worth fighting for, and humanity was about to find out just how dangerous that knowledge could be. 6 weeks went by after the Vexari left. Jake was in the conference room looking at a hologram screen. On the screen were two important people from Earth. One was Admiral Gregory Collins from the military. The other was Ambassador Patricia Sullivan from the diplomatic department. Both looked very serious. Admiral Collins spoke first. He said Jake's report had caused big problems back on Earth, but even bigger problems had started across the whole galaxy. The news about Earth's special water had spread everywhere. Ambassador Sullivan leaned forward. She explained that the Vexari had been talking to everyone. Within just a few days of going home, they told other species about Earth water. Now 17 different alien species had contacted Earth. 6 of them were species that humans had never even met before. Jake felt sick to his stomach. He could guess what was coming next. He said they all wanted to buy water, right? The ambassador said that would be the good news. The bad news was much worse. Admiral Collins explained that 3 species had not asked politely. They had demanded water. The Krillian Empire said that if humans refused to give them water, it would be like declaring war. Another group called the Zephon Collective had been more subtle, but their message was clear. Give us water or face consequences. Kate had been listening quietly. Now she spoke up. She said surely these aliens could not just threaten Earth. Humans might not be the strongest species in space, but they were not weak either. They had weapons and ships too. Ambassador Sullivan smiled, but it was a sad smile. She said that was exactly the problem. Most alien species saw humans as young and aggressive. Humans had only been in space for a short time. Other species had been traveling space for thousands of years. They saw humans as children who did not know their place yet. Now humans had something that everyone wanted. The older species were worried about what humans would do with that power. Would humans be fair? Would they be greedy? Nobody knew. That uncertainty made everyone nervous. Jake asked what Earth's government had decided to do. Admiral Collins sat up straight. He said the Security Council had made a declaration. Earth water belonged to Earth. It was not for sale to anyone who threatened them, but they would trade fairly with any species that asked nicely. The Admiral continued, if anyone tried to take water by force, Earth would fight back with everything they had. It did not matter how big or strong the enemy was. Humans would defend what was theirs. Jake said it was a brave decision, but he asked if Earth was really ready to back it up. Could they actually fight against some of these powerful alien empires? Admiral Collins said they were about to find out. That was why he was calling. Europa Station was now one of the most important places in human space. They were sending more weapons, more soldiers, and more equipment to protect it. Jake's quiet mining station was about to become a fortress. The Admiral also said a new scientist was coming. His name was Dr. Peter Hayes. He would work with Dr. Chen to study why Earth water was so special. Maybe if they understood it better, they could find solutions to the problem. The meeting went on for another hour. They talked about security, emergency plans, and what to do if aliens attacked. When it finally ended, Jake was alone in the room. He looked out the window at Jupiter. The giant planet looked peaceful, but Jake knew that peace would not last. Dr. Chen came into the room quietly. She said she had been thinking about Commander Vex Kolar's warning. He said others would not ask politely. What if he knew something specific? What if someone was already planning to attack? The Vexari traveled everywhere and heard lots of gossip. Maybe the commander knew that an attack was coming. Maybe that was why he warned them. Before Jake could answer, alarms started blaring all over the station. Kate's voice came through the speakers. She sounded scared. She said unknown ships were coming into the Jupiter system. They were not answering any messages. Jake and the doctor needed to come to the control room right away. Jake ran as fast as he could. Dr. Chen was right behind him. When they got to the control room, Jake saw the main screen and his heart sank. 7 large ships were coming toward Europa. They were much bigger than the Vexari ships. Their design was angular and aggressive. These were warships. Martinez, the security chief, was at his station. He looked at Jake with wide eyes. He said the computer identified the ships. They were Krillian warships, military ships designed for fighting, and they were charging up their weapons. Jake asked how much time they had before the ships could attack. Martinez checked his screen. He said 18 minutes at the speed the ships were traveling. 18 minutes until they could start shooting. Jake made his decision fast. He told everyone to go to emergency stations. Turn on the shields. Charge up all the weapons. Kate needed to send an emergency message to Earth. Tell them the Krillians were here and attacking. All around the station, people started moving. Scientists dropped what they were doing and ran to safe areas. Guards grabbed their weapons and went to their posts. Engineers started the defensive systems. Everyone had practiced for this, but nobody thought it would really happen. Jake looked at his crew in the control room. He saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. These people were miners and scientists. They came here to dig ice and make water. They never signed up to be soldiers, but now they had to fight. Kate finished sending the emergency message to Earth. She said it would take hours for any help to arrive. Even if Earth sent ships right away, they could not get here in time. Europa Station was on its own. Jake knew what he had to say. He spoke to everyone on the station through the intercom. He said he knew they were scared. He was scared too, but they had something worth protecting. Not just the water, but the idea that humans could not be bullied, that humans would stand up for what was right. He said they might not win this fight. The Krillians were stronger and had more ships. But humans had something the Krillians did not expect. Humans were stubborn. Humans were creative. And humans did not give up easily. Jake looked at the screen showing the approaching ships. They looked terrifying, dark and sharp like giant insects made of metal. They were getting closer every second. Soon they would be close enough to attack. Martinez reported that all weapons were ready. All shields were at maximum power. They had 32 small guns for defense, 4 big plasma cannons, and lots of missiles. Against 7 warships it was not much, but it was all they had. Dr. Chen was still in the control room. She put her hand on Jake's shoulder. She did not say anything. She did not need to. They both knew what was coming. In minutes the battle would begin. Europa Station, a small mining facility, was about to face one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Jake took a deep breath. He thought about Earth, about all the people there who did not even know this was happening, about the oceans and rivers and rain, about the billions of years that water had been part of life on Earth. That water made Earth special, and now humans had to prove they were worthy of protecting it. The Krillian ships were almost in weapons range. Jake could see them clearly now on the screen. He said quietly to his crew that this was it. This was the moment when they would find out what humanity was really made of. This was when they would show the galaxy that humans could not be pushed around. Whatever happened next would change everything. The Krillian ships moved closer in perfect formation. They flew like a military unit that had trained together for years. Jake watched the screen, his mind working fast. Europa Station had weapons, but they were meant for protecting against pirates and small threats, not for fighting 7 military warships. When the ships were 15 minutes away, they finally sent a message. A face appeared on the screen. Jake had never seen a Krillian before. The creature was huge, maybe 9 feet tall. Its skin looked like black armor with a shine to it. It had 4 arms with claw-like hands. Its eyes were cold and showed no emotion. The Krillian spoke. The computer translated his words. He said his name was Fleet Commander Cax Torin of the Krillian Empire. He said humans had resources that belonged to the Empire by old laws. He demanded that Jake surrender control of the water facilities. If Jake did this, nobody would get hurt. Jake kept his voice steady. He said the station and its water belonged to Earth. Any attack would be an act of war against humanity. The Krillian would be starting a war. Cax Torin made a gesture like he was brushing away a fly. He said Earth was young and far away. By the time Earth sent help, everything would be over. He gave Jake one last choice. Leave the station and take money as payment, or stay and be conquered. Choose wisely. The screen went black. Jake turned to his crew. Everyone was looking at him, waiting for orders. He thought about what would happen if they just gave up. If humanity surrendered now, they would always be seen as weak. Every alien species would think they could push humans around. Jake asked Martinez about their weapons. Martinez said everything was ready. They had 32 small defense guns, 4 plasma cannons, and missiles. The shields were at full power, but against 7 warships they might only last a few minutes. Jake said then they would make those few minutes count. He asked Kate how long until Earth ships could arrive. Kate checked her screen. The nearest battle group was 6 hours away, even at maximum speed. They could not wait that long. Jake walked to the window. He looked down at Europa's frozen surface. Then he turned back to his crew. He said they did not need to hold out for 6 hours. They just needed to make the Krillians think twice, make them realize that taking Earth's water would cost them dearly. He told them that the Krillians did not understand humans yet. Humans were stubborn. Humans were unpredictable. Humans did not give up what was theirs without a fight. Today they would teach the Krillians that lesson. He ordered Martinez to target the lead ship with everything they had. The Krillian ships entered weapons range. For a moment everything was quiet. Then the lead ship fired. Bright bolts of plasma shot through space. They hit Europa Station's shields with tremendous force. The whole station shook. Lights flickered. Alarms went off everywhere. Jake shouted the order to return fire. Every weapon on Europa Station came alive. The small defense guns fired rapid shots. The plasma cannons released huge beams of energy. Missiles launched and streaked toward the Krillian ships. The Krillians had expected a short fight. They thought humans would fire a few shots and then surrender. They were wrong. Europa Station concentrated all its firepower on the lead ship. The attack was so fierce and focused that it overwhelmed the ship's shields. Martinez shouted with excitement. He said they hit the target. The lead ship's forward shields were down. They had punched holes through its armor. The ship was damaged and leaking air into space, but the victory did not last long. The other 6 Krillian ships adjusted their formation. All of them opened fire at the same time. The station shook even harder. Warning lights appeared on every screen. Explosions echoed through the corridors. Kate reported that shields were down to 40%. The Krillians were focusing their fire on one section. That part of the station was taking heavy damage. Some areas had lost power. They could not take much more of this, Jake thought fast. They had hurt the Krillians, but not enough. The station could not survive this assault for long. He needed a new plan, something the Krillians would not expect, something clever. Then Dr. Chen's voice came through his communicator.
She said she had an idea.
It was risky and maybe crazy, but it might work. She reminded Jake about the ice processing facility. It used very powerful lasers to cut through ice. What if they used those lasers as weapons? The lasers were not designed for fighting, but they were incredibly powerful. At close range, they could cut through almost anything. The problem was the ships needed to be very close. Less than 500 meters away. Jake smiled. He asked how close. Dr. Chen said basically right on top of them. Jake made his decision. He told Martinez to shut down all the defensive weapons. Make it look like the station was crippled and about to surrender. Martinez looked confused. He asked if Jake was sure. Jake said yes. They were going to invite the Krillians to come closer. And when they did, they would get a surprise. Dr. Chen needed to get those industrial lasers ready. It was a desperate plan. But humans were good at desperate plans. Europa Station's weapons went silent. The shields flickered and looked weak. To the Krillians, it looked exactly like surrender. 3 of the Krillian ships broke away from the formation. They moved closer to the station, preparing to send soldiers aboard. They came within 400 meters. Their shields were lowered to save power. They were confident they had won. Jake waited. His heart was pounding. Everything depended on timing. The Krillian ships moved even closer. 300 meters. 200 meters. They were preparing to dock with the station, now. Jake gave the order. Dr. Chen, show them what happens when you underestimate humans. 20 industrial lasers, each one powerful enough to slice through meters of solid ice, turned and fired, all of them at once. The focused beams were incredibly bright. At close range with no shields, the effect was devastating. The lasers cut through the Krillian armor like it was paper. They sliced deep into the ships, cutting through walls, systems, and power cores. One ship exploded immediately in a ball of fire. Its reactor had been breached. The other 2 ships tried to pull away, but it was too late. They were crippled, drifting dead in space. Air and debris poured out of huge gashes in their hulls. They were no longer a threat. On the main screen, Fleet Commander Cax Torin stared at the destruction. His face showed shock. When he spoke, his voice was different. There was something new in it. Respect. He said they had underestimated humans. Humans fought like true warriors, not like merchants protecting goods. This changed everything. The Krillian fleet would withdraw for now. But he made it clear this was not over. The matter was not finished. The remaining 4 Krillian ships turned and flew away from Europa. They left their dead and damaged ships behind. As they disappeared into space, everyone in the control room started cheering. They had done it. They had won. Jake let them celebrate for a moment. Then he asked for a damage report. Martinez said several sections had structural damage. 2 people were injured, but not badly. The shields needed to be completely rebuilt. But the station was intact. They had survived. Kate came up to Jake. Her eyes were shining. She said they had actually done it. A mining station with scientists and engineers had defeated military warships from one of the most feared empires in the galaxy. Jake nodded, but he was not celebrating yet. He watched the Krillian ships disappear. He knew this was just the beginning. Word of this battle would spread across the galaxy. Everyone would hear how humans defended what was theirs. The question was, what would happen next? Would other species respect humanity's strength, or would they just send bigger fleets? Jake did not know. But he knew one thing for certain. Humans had shown they were not going to be pushed around. They had proven they would fight for what was theirs no matter the odds. The Battle of Europa, as people would later call it, was over. But its effects were just beginning. The galaxy had learned something important today. When you threaten humans, when you try to take what is theirs by force, you better be prepared for a fight, because humans, it turned out, did not scare easily. 3 months passed after the Battle of Europa. Jake was standing in a completely different place now. He was in the Grand Assembly Hall on a station called Unity. This was where representatives from hundreds of alien species met to discuss important matters. The hall was enormous and filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some were tall, some were short. Some had fur, some had scales, some had things Jake could not even identify. All of them were looking at the human delegation. All of them were looking at Jake. Ambassador Sullivan was leading the human group. She had insisted that Jake come with her. He stood behind her in his military uniform, feeling very uncomfortable. He did not belong here with diplomats and leaders. He was just a mining station manager, but Ambassador Sullivan had explained why he needed to be here. Jake was the human who faced the Krillian Empire and won. That meant something to these aliens. It carried weight. It showed that humans were serious about defending themselves. The assembly speaker called the meeting to order. The speaker was a luminary, a tall crystalline being that glowed with inner light. Its voice echoed through the hall. It said they were meeting to discuss Earth water and who had rights to it. Ambassador Sullivan stood up to speak. She told the assembly what happened 3 months ago. The Krillian Empire tried to take Earth's water by force. They were stopped by a small group of miners and scientists who refused to surrender, people who believed in protecting what was theirs. She paused to let that sink in. Then she said that since that day humans had received hundreds of messages about water. Some were polite requests, some were demands, some were threats. Today humanity would give its answer to all of them. Ambassador Sullivan activated a hologram. It showed Earth, with its blue oceans and white clouds. She explained that Earth water was not just a simple resource. It was the product of 4 billion years of life and geology. It was part of Earth's history and identity. Because of this, humanity declared all water from Earth and the solar system to be protected. It belonged to humans. Nobody could just take it. This was Earth's sovereign right. Noise filled the hall. Many aliens were talking at once. This was a bold statement. Humans were saying they would not share their discovery freely. The Krillian representative stood up. His armor shined under the lights. He said this was wrong. Resources this valuable could not belong to just one species. The assembly needed to force humans to share. Before Ambassador Sullivan could respond, something unexpected happened. Commander Vex Kolar stood up from where he was watching. He asked permission to speak. The speaker allowed it. The Vexari commander walked down to the main floor. He reminded everyone that the Vexari discovered Earth water's properties first. They could have kept it secret. They could have made exclusive deals and gotten rich. But they chose to be honest and respectful with humans. He turned to face the whole assembly. He said humans did something remarkable at Europa Station. When offered incredible wealth for their water, they chose their principles instead. When threatened with war, they chose to fight rather than surrender. These were not the actions of a species that could be easily controlled. The commander said the Krillians learned this the hard way. He suggested others should learn from that lesson. Humans were stronger than they looked, more determined than expected. Another alien stood up. This one was from the Harmonious Coalition, a group of peaceful species. He said maybe there was a middle way. Humans wanted their sovereignty respected. That was fair. But could humans also think about the needs of others? Many species could benefit from this water. Surely some compromise could be found. Ambassador Sullivan nodded. She said Earth was willing to trade. They were not against sharing, but they were against being threatened or exploited. So humanity proposed creating the Terran Water Authority. This would be an organization that regulated how Earth water was distributed. She showed another hologram with details. The authority would give priority to species that needed water for medical reasons. The amount of water exported would be limited to protect Earth's environment. Prices would be fair even for poor species, and all the money made would go towards scientific research that helped everyone. Ambassador Sullivan said they estimated Earth could safely export 1 million liters per year. This water would be given out through a lottery system. Nobody would get special treatment just because they were powerful. Additionally, all research about Earth water would be shared freely. Maybe other species could find similar resources on their own worlds. The proposal surprised everyone. Many aliens had expected Earth to either hoard the water or charge enormous prices. Instead, humans were offering a fair system that balanced their rights with responsibility to others. The assembly debated for hours. Different species asked questions and gave opinions. Some were suspicious. Some were grateful. Finally, they voted. The Terran Water Authority was approved by a huge majority. Only the Krillian Empire and 2 of their allies voted against it. That evening, Jake found himself on an observation deck. He was looking out at the stars, thinking about everything that had happened. Commander Vex Kohler appeared beside him, moving quietly as always. Jake spoke first. He said he knew the commander had planned this from the beginning. When Vex Kohler came to Europa, he already suspected what Earth water could do. The whole thing was a test. Vex Kohler admitted it was true. He said the Vexari had heard rumors and needed to verify them. But more than that, he wanted to see what humans would do when given such power. Would they be wise or would they be typical? The commander explained that the Vexari had been traveling space for 10,000 years. They had seen many species rise and fall. They had watched civilizations destroy themselves over resources much less valuable than water. He wanted to see if humans were different. Jake asked what verdict the commander had reached. Vex Kohler made that gesture that meant respect. He said humans chose principles over easy money. They defended their rights but acknowledged their responsibilities. They turned a crisis into an opportunity for cooperation. That was wisdom. It was rare even among ancient species. Jake smiled a little. He said humans were still learning. The galaxy was big and humans were very new to it. They were figuring things out as they went. Vex Kohler said maybe that was humanity's advantage. Humans had not yet learned to be cynical. They still believed in fairness and cooperation. He told Jake to hold on to that. The galaxy needed species who remembered such principles. 6 months later, the first official shipment of Earth water left Europa Station. It was going to medical facilities run by 17 different species. Each one received their carefully allocated amount for research and treatment. Jake stood at his usual window, watching the transport ships leave. Dr. Chen came and stood beside him. She smiled and said they had done it. They turned a potential disaster into something good. Jake agreed but said this was just the beginning. The galaxy learned that humans had something valuable. More importantly, they learned that humans were not easily pushed around. That reputation would shape humanity's future for a very long time. Dr. Chen asked if he thought the Krillians would try again. Jake thought about it. Probably not with direct military force, but they would look for weaknesses. They would probe and test. That was why Europa Station needed to stay alert. The message from the battle would fade if it was not reinforced. Kate waved at them from the control room below. A new work shift was starting. The station's routine continued even though everything had changed. Europa was no longer just a mining facility. It had become a symbol of humanity stepping forward as a real power in the galaxy. Jake thought about what Commander Vex Kohler said about holding on to principles. The aliens had given water to a human, expecting gratitude and obedience. Instead, they discovered something unexpected, a species that would fight for its rights, a species that stood by its principles even when outgunned, a species that shared its fortune even when it could have been selfish. Humanity had water. But more than that, humanity had shown the galaxy what it was made of. Jake suspected that would prove more valuable than any resource, no matter how special or rare. Jupiter rotated slowly outside the window. Its orange and brown surface glowed softly. Europa's icy landscape stretched below. Jake felt satisfied. They had done well. All of them. Whatever challenges came next, humanity would face them the same way they faced the Krillians. With courage, creativity, and a refusal to back down. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When you give water to a human, expect something remarkable in return. Humans were full of surprises, and this was only the beginning of humanity's journey among the stars. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Europa. Jake was sitting in his office reading reports from across the solar system. The Terran Water Authority was working well. Medical facilities on dozens of worlds were using Earth water to help their patients. The research was producing amazing results. Dr. Chen had become famous. Her research into why Earth water was special had opened new fields of study. Scientists from many species were now looking at their own worlds differently. 3 species had already found similar properties in water from their home planets. It was not as strong as Earth water, but it was still helpful. Europa Station had changed too. It was much bigger now. More people worked here. More buildings had been added. The defense systems were stronger. But most importantly, the station had become a meeting place. Aliens came here regularly to talk, trade, and learn. Kate knocked on Jake's door and came in. She had good news. Another shipment was ready to go. This one was going to a hospital on a Vexari colony world. Children there were sick with a disease that Earth water could help treat. Jake smiled. This was what they had fought for. Not to hoard the water, but to use it to help others. That was what made humanity different. They could have been greedy, but they chose to be generous instead. There was other news too. The Krillian Empire had sent a message. Not a threat this time. An apology. They wanted to apply through proper channels for a water allocation. They were willing to follow the rules now. Commander Cax Torin himself had signed the message. Jake thought about that for a moment. The Krillians had learned their lesson. Violence did not work against humans. Respect and cooperation did. It was a good lesson for them to learn. Kate also mentioned that Commander Vex Kohler was coming to visit again. He was bringing a delegation of Vexari scientists. They wanted to work with Dr. Chen on joint research. They had some ideas about combining Earth water with Vexari medical technology. That evening, Jake went to the observation deck. He liked coming here to think. Through the reinforced glass, he could see Jupiter as always. But now he also saw something else. Ships, lots of them. Not warships, but peaceful vessels. Traders, scientists, diplomats, all coming to Europa. Humanity had become important. Not because of military strength, though the battle had shown they could fight. Not because of wealth, though the water could have made them rich. But because they chose to use their advantage wisely. They chose cooperation over domination. Dr. Chen joined him at the window. She looked tired but happy. She said the latest research showed something interesting. The beneficial effects of Earth water were not just chemical. There was something else, something they did not fully understand yet. It was like the water carried a memory of life itself. Billions of years of organisms living, dying, and being reborn in Earth's water had left an imprint. That imprint somehow helped other living things. It was a gift from Earth's ancient past to the present galaxy. Jake asked if other worlds could develop the same property. Dr. Chen said maybe, but it would take millions or billions of years. Earth was unique not because of what it had, but because of its age and its history. Life had existed on Earth longer than almost anywhere else humans had found. That made Earth even more special. It was not just their home. It was a teacher for the whole galaxy, a reminder of what time and life could create together. Martinez came up to the observation deck. Martinez had been promoted to chief of security for the entire station. He said the new defense platforms were all installed and working. But they had not had any problems lately. Most aliens were following the rules and being respectful. Jake said that was good news. But they should stay alert. Not everyone in the galaxy was happy with the current arrangement. There would always be those who wanted to take by force what they could not gain through cooperation. Martinez nodded and said his people were ready. The station would never be caught off guard again. They had learned from the Krillian attack. Now they were prepared for anything. The next morning, Commander Vex Kohler arrived with his delegation. Jake met them in the docking bay. The commander looked the same as before, tall and imposing with his green scales. But there was a warmth in his greeting that had not been there the first time. The commander said he was pleased to see how well things had turned out. When he first came to Europa, he had hoped humans would prove wise. But even he had not expected them to be this generous. Humanity had exceeded his expectations. Jake said humans were still learning. They made mistakes. But they tried to do what was right. That was all anyone could do. Vex Kohler made that gesture of respect again. He said that attitude was why humans would succeed in the galaxy. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they tried to be fair and just. The Vexari scientists went with Dr. Chen to the research lab. Jake and the commander walked to the observation deck. They stood side by side looking out at Jupiter. The commander spoke quietly. He said he wanted to tell Jake something. When the Vexari first discovered Earth water's properties, there had been a debate among his people. Some wanted to keep it secret and use it for themselves. Others wanted to tell everyone and let chaos result. Both groups thought they could profit from the situation, but Vex Kolar had argued for a different approach. He wanted to test humanity, to see if they were worthy of their gift. He risked his career and reputation on the belief that humans would choose wisely. Jake asked why the commander had believed in humans. Vex Kolar said he had studied human history. He saw a species that fought among themselves, but also showed moments of incredible kindness, a species capable of great violence but also great compassion. He believed that when tested, humans would show their better nature. The commander was right. Humans could have hoarded the water. They could have used it to gain power over other species. Instead, they shared it and helped others. That choice defined humanity in the eyes of the galaxy. Jake thanked the commander for believing in them. Vex Kolar said it was humans who should be thanked. They had given the galaxy hope. Hope that resources could be shared fairly. Hope that power did not always corrupt. Hope that different species could work together. Later that day, Jake received a message from Earth. It was from the President herself. She thanked him for his service. Because of what he and his crew did at Europa, humanity had earned respect across the galaxy. Earth was no longer seen as a young, weak species. They were now recognized as equals. The President also said Jake was being promoted. He would become the ambassador to the Galactic Assembly. His experience and wisdom were needed there. Kate would take over as station manager at Europa. Jake felt mixed emotions. He loved Europa Station. It had been his home for years. But he understood the importance of the new role. Humanity needed someone at the Assembly who understood what had happened here. Someone who could speak for Earth with authority. He told Kate about the promotion. She was surprised but pleased. She said she would take good care of the station. She would continue the work they had started. Europa would remain a symbol of human values. On his last night at Europa, Jake went to the observation deck one final time. He thought about everything that had happened. A simple act of kindness giving water to an alien in need had changed the course of history. It had revealed a truth about Earth that nobody knew. It had led to conflict and battle, and ultimately it had brought different species together. Dr. Chen came to say goodbye. She said she would miss working with him. Jake said he would miss her too, but this was not really goodbye. They would see each other again. They were all part of the same journey now. Martinez came by as well. He shook Jake's hand firmly. He said Jake had taught them all something important. That doing the right thing mattered. That standing up for your principles was worth the risk. As Jake prepared to leave Europa Station, he took one last look at Jupiter. The great planet continued its eternal rotation, indifferent to the small dramas of the beings on its moon. But those small dramas mattered. They shaped the future. Humanity had been given a gift, not just the water, but the opportunity to show who they really were. They could have failed that test. They could have been greedy or violent or selfish. But they chose a different path. They chose to be generous, principled, and fair. That choice would echo through the centuries. Other species would remember how humans handled their advantage. They would remember the Battle of Europa. They would remember the Terran Water Authority. They would remember that when humans were given something precious, they shared it with others. Jake boarded the ship that would take him to Unity 1. As Europa Station grew smaller in the window, he felt proud. Proud of his crew. Proud of humanity. Proud of what they had accomplished together. The aliens had given water to a human, expecting a simple transaction. What they got instead was a lesson about courage, integrity, and compassion. A lesson that would help shape the galaxy for generations to come. This was not the end of humanity's journey among the stars. It was just the beginning. But it was a good beginning. A beginning based on the best of what humans could be. And that, Jake thought as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, was something worth celebrating.